Picture this. It's a hot, incredibly sunny day in Southern California. The temperature is sitting at a perfect 84 degrees in downtown Los Angeles, which is a city just overflowing with hopefuls caught in this technicolor world of music and ambition. In this explainer, we're going to walk through a continuous story of two such aspiring creatives who collide in this city of stars. We'll trace their journey from their initial struggles all the way to their ultimate success and examine the true cost of chasing their dreams. Here's the roadmap for our narrative today. We'll start with 1, the struggling dreamers, move into 2, intersecting paths and aspirations, look at 3, the price of compromise, talk about 4, the fools who dream, and finally, wrap up with 5, the bittersweet epilogue.
Section 1. The Struggling Dreamers. Now, in this bright, sunny, but honestly unforgiving city, trying to make it means facing constant, soul-crushing rejection literally on a daily basis.
Surviving that? Well, it takes a pretty relentless kind of optimism. Think about that opening lyric, and when they let you down, you get up off the ground because morning rolls around and it's another day of sun. That right there is the absolute mantra for our two protagonists, who are just desperately trying to forge their own paths in LA.
So we've got two artists with these pure, totally uncompromised dreams. On one hand, there's Mia. She dropped out of college after 2 years, packed her bags for LA, and now she's working as a barista right on the Warner Brothers lot. She's pouring coffee just to be physically near the magic, all while dealing with casting directors who constantly interrupt or just flat out ignore her during auditions. And then, on the other hand, we have Sebastian. He's a deeply serious musician who thinks pure jazz is practically dying on the vine. His grand plan? Save it by opening his own club where musicians can play whatever they want exactly when they want.
You really get a feel for Sebastian's absolute stubbornness when you look at his literal worst nightmare. There's this historic jazz club called the Van Beek, a spot where legends like Count Basie and Chick Webb used to play. But now, it's been converted into a samba tapas place. Yeah, a place that serves tapas and plays samba, totally trampling over pure jazz history. To Sebastian, this represents everything wrong with a city that worships everything but values nothing. He is absolutely determined to buy it back and restore its legacy. So, he's scraping by, playing terrible gigs, and even getting fired on Christmas by a club manager named Bill just because he refused to stick to the standard set list.
Section 2. Intersecting paths and aspirations. Right in the thick of all this individual frustration, Mia and Sebastian's lives start to, inevitably and repeatedly, intersect. They actually cross paths a couple of times first, once at Bill's restaurant, and then again at this hilarious 80s cover band gig. But they finally truly connect after a Hollywood party. They're walking to their cars, looking out over this gorgeous, swirling Los Angeles sky, and what do? They actively try to mask their connection. They playfully call it a waste of a lovely night, insisting there's zero spark in sight and that they totally aren't each other's type. But of course, the magnetic pull between them is undeniably obvious.
Once they finally let those guards down, wow, they become these massive catalysts for one another, really throwing gasoline on each other's artistic fires. Sebastian pushes Mia to stop waiting for permission from terrible casting directors and to write her own roles, leveraging her real talent as a playwright. And Mia pushes him right back. She actually designs a logo for his future club and literally begs him not to call it Chicken on a Stick. Yeah, he stubbornly wanted that name just because Charlie Parker loved chicken. She tells him, no, call it Sebs.
So as their ambitions start to deeply intertwine, their romance blossoms right alongside it. They go to the Rialto to watch Rebel Without a Cause for research, and before long they're moving in together. It's this incredibly melancholic, beautiful, and deeply romantic period. It really feels like the city of stars is finally shining just for them, wrapping their shared dreams and their love into one completely unified journey.
Section 3. The price of compromise. Because, let's be real, you can't pay for a jazz club or a theater production with romance. Eventually, the harsh financial reality of LA forces a devastating shift. One day, Sebastian overhears Mia on the phone with her mom, trying to defend his lack of a steady gig and his totally empty savings account. He feels ashamed, right? He wants to support them. So he takes a meeting with an old acquaintance named Keith, who hands him a very lucrative offer to play keys in a new band. We're talking $1,000 a week plus a cut of ticket and merch revenue. But here is the massive cost. Sebastian has to completely abandon his traditional jazz roots to play this highly produced modern pop jazz. Keith practically hits the nail on the head when he tells him, "You're holding on to the past, but jazz is about the future." And with that, Sebastian signs the dotted line.
And man, this compromise triggers a wildly rapid, absolutely heartbreaking downfall. It starts in days, with Sebastian leaving on tour to cities like Boise and Dallas. Then, weeks pass, and a mandatory Mojo magazine photo shoot makes him entirely miss the opening night of Mia's one-woman show. And in a matter of hours, we see that the play is a total disaster. Almost nobody shows up, and Mia actually overhears the few people in the audience calling her terrible. Devastated, unable to pay back the theater, and just exhausted by Sebastian's endless new touring lifestyle, a lifestyle he doesn't even like, Mia calls it quits. Within minutes, she ends the relationship, declares she's done embarrassing herself, leaves LA completely, and moves back home to Boulder City, Nevada.
Section 4, The Fools Who Dream. Now, the narrative could have easily ended right there in defeat, but instead it leaps into this massive emotional climax.
And it's sparked entirely by one totally unexpected phone call. Out of the blue, Sebastian gets a message on Mia's old phone from a casting director named Amy Brandt. It turns out Amy was at Mia's sparsely attended play, and she absolutely loved it. Now, they want Mia for a massive movie shooting in Paris. So what does Sebastian do? He drives all the way out to Nevada, parks right across from the library by her house, and leans on his horn until she comes out. When Mia refuses, saying it just hurts too much to keep failing, Sebastian simply won't let her quit. He essentially forces her back to Los Angeles for the audition, and when she gets in the room, the directors won't even have a script. They just look at her and ask her to tell a story.
So, Mia sings. She tells a story about her aunt, a former actress who once lived in Paris and actually jumped barefoot into the freezing Seine River without even looking. The lyrics are incredible. Here's to the ones who dream, foolish as they may seem. Here's to the hearts that ache. Here's to the mess we make. It's this breathtaking, raw, vulnerable performance that completely encapsulates all her pain, her madness, and her unyielding hope.
After that audition, they head up to Griffith Park and just sit quietly. They both know she's going to get the part, but now they have to face the quiet, heavy maturity of their final decision. Mia's path is set. She has to go to Paris and give this movie absolutely everything she has. Sebastian's path is clear too. He needs to stay in Los Angeles, stick to his own plan, and finally open that jazz club. They accept their separate destinies, promising that they will always love each other as they walk away.
Section 5. The Bittersweet Epilogue. We fast forward 5 years in time to a final sequence where the reality of their separate choices has permanently materialized.
And you know what? Miraculously, both of our protagonists achieved exactly what they originally set out to do. Mia is now this massive, highly successful movie star. She's got a loving husband and a young daughter. Then one night while out in LA, she and her husband stumble into this dark, crowded jazz club. Mia looks up at the logo above the stage, and there it is. The musical note apostrophe she designed. It's Seb's. Sebastian is up on stage introducing his band. He looks out into the crowd and he sees her. He sits at the piano and plays their theme one last time. They share one final, silent, totally knowing smile of mutual respect and love. And then, Mia turns and walks out the door.
It's an incredible, continuous, unbroken journey from two struggling artists in a coffee shop to absolute masters of their own destinies. But as we reach the end of this story, it forces us to ask one final lingering question. Is achieving your ultimate dream really worth the sacrifice of a great love?